The year is 1998. Google has just been started by Larry Page and Sergey Brin. You have been rocking out to Too Close by Next on your MP3 player, and all you want for Christmas is a Furby. It's also the last time Tulane football was ranked in the top 25, and there was major excitement surrounding the program. The Green Wave just punched their ticket to the American Conference Championship game, finishing the regular season 10-2. A complete turnaround from their disastrous 2021 season when they finished 2-10. But how'd they do it? Stay tuned to find out. Tulane began playing football in November of 1893, and in their first game, they would lose to the Southern Athletic Club. They quickly got things going though, because later that month, they would go on to beat LSU in their first matchup. The final score of the game, 34-0 Green Wave. Tulane's football program would be inconsistent throughout the rest of the 1890s, even going scoreless and winless in 1899. But come the turn of the century, the Green Wave would quickly turn things around, rolling Alabama, Ole Miss, and LSU en route to a 5-0 record in 1900. From the early 1900s to the 1920s, the Green Wave remained a highly inconsistent team. While the team compiled more winning records than losing records during the time period, it was overall not able to make much of a lasting impact. Under head coach Bernie Bierman, Tulane blew out its first two opponents 116-6 to open up the 1928 season. The Green Wave went 9-0 in 1929, 8-1 in 1930, and 11-0 in 1931. They would earn the opportunity to play in the 1932 Rose Bowl, where they lost a close game to USC. The following season, they went 6-2-1 and would join the SEC in 1933. In 1934, Tulane would win their first Sugar Bowl over Temple and remain competitive throughout the rest of the 1930s, would start to see a drop-off come the 1940s. For the next 25 years, the team gradually began to fall in the SEC standings. In the 1966 season, the team decided the best route was to leave the SEC and begin playing an intersectional schedule. This was at first fruitful, but once again led the team to mediocrity, where it resided for quite some time, with the exception of two brief periods of bowl appearances in the 1970s. Then, in 1998, their third season in the Conference USA, quarterback Sean King and head coach Tommy Bowden led Tulane to a 12-0 record, beating BYU in the Liberty Bowl and finishing the year as the 10th best team in the nation. Throughout the season, no one could stop them as they would put up a program record of 499 total points. From the electrifying 1998 season until today, Tulane football has returned to a period of steady decline. Chris Scelfo would take over as head coach over Tulane offensive coordinator Rich Rodriguez. 2002 would mark the Green Wave's last winning season until 2013. Scelfo and his staff guided Tulane football through a particularly difficult 2005 season, in which the program played its 11 games in 11 different stadiums because of its displacement and Tulane's temporarily shuttering due to the effects of Hurricane Katrina. After a 37-57 record, Scelfo would be fired in 2006. Bob Toledo, the former UCLA coach who led the Bruins to a 49-32 record and a Pac-10 title in 1998, took over. Unfortunately, he would be unable to find the same type of success for the Green Wave, even with record-breaking running back Matt Forte. After a 15-46 record, Toledo resigned during the 2011 season. Curtis Johnson would be named the next head coach of the Green Wave and led Tulane to the New Orleans Bowl in 2013, his only winning season. He finished his coaching career with a 15-34 record and was fired after losing 22 of his final 27 games. The Green Wave football program was in a bad place and needed to hit on their next coaching hire. Enter Willie Fritz. Fritz had rebuilt programs throughout his career. His first head coaching job came at Brin College, which had a record of 5-24-1 the 3 seasons leading up to his arrival. Fritz put together a 39-5-1 record and led them to 2 national junior college championships. He would then become the head coach of Central Missouri, where he led them to their first playoff appearance in 32 years. In 2002, he led Central Missouri to their first NCAA Division II playoff berth and would go on to become the winningest coach in school history with a 97-47 record. He then took over as head coach at Sam Houston State, leading the Bearcats to back-to-back national title game appearances. In 4 seasons, he put together a 40-15 record and would take over as the head coach at Georgia Southern when they joined the FBS in 2014. He led them to a 9-3 record in the conference championship, followed by an 8-4 record in 2015. After the regular season, it was announced that Fritz would become the 39th head coach at Tulane. Things did not get off to a great start, with Tulane having back-to-back losing seasons before winning their division and the Cure Bowl in 2018 with a 7-6 record. The following season, the Green Wave went 7-6, winning the Armed Forces Bowl. It was the first time since 1997 and 1998 that the Wave were bowl eligible in consecutive seasons, and the first time since 1979-1980 that Tulane played in a bowl game in consecutive seasons. There was a new standard set at Tulane, with athletic director Troy Dannon telling the Tulanean, consistently playing in bowl games and competing for conference titles is a new standard for Tulane football. Coach Fritz, his staff, and our student athletes have raised the bar for excellence for which our program is measured, and we could not be more proud of their efforts. Tulane would make their third straight bowl game in 2020, finishing the season 6-6, and it felt like the program was about to take their next step. Expectations going into the season were that Tulane would make their fourth straight bowl appearance and finish somewhere in the middle of the conference. Instead, it looked like Tulane took a major step backwards, finishing the season 2-10, and it looked like history was going to repeat itself. But while it looked bad from the outsider's perspective, the fact Tulane was able to win any type of game with what they had to deal with leading up to and during the early part of the season makes those two wins impressive. According to the Athletics' Chris Vanini, Tulane moved its football team and athletic department up to Birmingham, Alabama for a month early last fall when Hurricane Ida smashed a city in the state. A Yulman Stadium game against Oklahoma had to be played at Oklahoma instead. Some players had to live in a hotel in New Orleans because their houses were destroyed. Nothing clicked. The defense allowed 46 points per game in the first 6 games against FBS opponents, and nothing seemed to go right for the Green Wave. But as the season progressed, the team improved, with the defense allowing 22 points per game during their final 5 games of the season. Going into the 2022 season, Tulane was predicted to finish 7th in the conference, and some thought they had a shot at making a bowl game this year, but that was basically the ceiling of the program to most. After a rough start to the 2021 season, defensive coordinator Chris Hampton decided to simplify parts of the defensive scheme and lean on some of the important returning players. Through the first part of the season, the defense allowed 19.9 points per game, which was 17th best in the nation. They allowed the 5th fewest plays of 30-plus yards. They were top 30 in both yards per rush and yards per pass allowed. The defense doesn't rely on negative plays, but rather it plays soundly and with great effort. Vanini writes, part of the defensive leap forward was a coverage change. Last season, Tulane played zone on 53.8% of the snaps, near the bottom of the country, according to Pro Football Focus. This year, that's up to 81.9%, 12th most in the nation. Hampton said that's because he trusts his veteran back 7, led by linebacker Nick Anderson and Dorian Williams. Hampton told The Athletic, that's been a big deal. Playing a lot more zone, not as much man. Consequently, we're not giving up as many big plays. Not giving up big plays is a big deal. On the offensive side of the ball, Tulane had their 3rd offensive coordinator in as many years. Will Hall left for the Southern Miss head coaching job after the 2020 season, and Chip Long left for the same job at Georgia Tech last offseason. In came Jim Svoboda, the head coach of Division III Central Missouri and the man who succeeded Fritz in 2009, when Fritz left for the head coaching job at Sam Houston State. Quarterback Michael Pratt, a former 3-star recruit out of Deerfield Beach, Florida, played well his first 2 seasons, throwing for 4,187 yards, 41 touchdowns, and 16 interceptions, but only completed 56.4% of his passes. This year's offense was a more quarterback-friendly system, with Pratt telling The Athletic he does a really good job explaining things and why, if it's not 100% what we're looking for. The way he makes his reads and progressions will always have an opportunity for a guy to have a one-on-one. As of now, Pratt has thrown for 2,219 yards, 20 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions, completing 65.4% of his passes through the first 10 games of the season. Going into the 2022 season, there was a different level of commitment from the team. Hampton pointed to a late July afternoon when he went back to his office to grab something. He looked out onto the field and saw upwards of 30 players putting each other through their own workouts, including a jugs machine for catches, an agility ladder, and 2 speakers for music. He went out and asked the players if they'd been doing this every day. They had. He told The Athletic, I was like, these guys want it. You could see it right then. According to Pratt, these workouts started back in January, and he explained how players stepped into leadership positions and held players accountable. The work paid off, with Tulane starting the season 7-1, which included a win over Kansas State. They were ranked in the top 25 for the first time since their magical 1998 season, and seemed in control of their destiny when it comes to making a New Year's Six bowl. They would lose to UCF 38-31, but rebounded well, beating SMU 59-24 and clinching a spot in the conference championship game with a win on the road over Cincinnati 27-24. They played their first home game on campus as a ranked team for the first time this year since 1974 against Memphis, which was also the program's first sellout since opening Yulman Stadium in 2014. This Tulane team has been fun to watch this season, and it's amazing to see them turn a 2-10 record last year into a 10-2 record this season, heading into the American Athletic Conference Championship game against UCF. But what do you think? Will Tulane win the American this season and make it to a New Year's Six bowl? Let me know in the comment section below. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to check out one of my other videos right here. Don't forget to leave a like and to subscribe for more college football content. Thank you so much for watching. I could not be more thankful for y'all. You guys make this all possible for me. And as always, remember to embrace the grind.